Hello, my name is Craig Slebush, and today I'll be showing you how to perform 5 different exercises. The push-up, the squat, a single leg Romanian deadlift, commonly referred to as an RDL, the bent over row, and the plank. Let's start with the push-up. The agonist muscles being used in the push-up are the anterior deltoids, the pectoralis major, as well as your triceps. The antagonist muscles being used in the push-up are your posterior deltoids, your biceps, as well as your rhomboids. The joints being used when performing a push-up are your scapula, which is a glenohumeral joint. They retract when going down and protract on the upward phase. Your shoulder, which is a ball and socket joint, extends when going down and flexes when coming up. Your elbow, which is also a hinge joint, this flexes when going down and extends when coming up. Your wrist, which is a condyloid synovial joint, which is in a static extension position. Now I'll demonstrate how to perform the movement with my client, Chantal. Welcome, Chantal. Perfect. So let's get started. Okay, so first I'm going to show you, demonstrate the movement, and then from there I'll cue you how to perform the movement correctly, show you some safety tips, and then give you some spotting techniques.
Cool.
Perfect. So to get started, let's lie face down on the mat. Try and place your arms, your hands, your wrists underneath your shoulders, your shoulder width apart. Be on your toes, have your ankles nice and flexed. And then to start, what we're going to do is press all the way up and keep our body in as straight line as possible. Hand, shoulder width apart. That's it, perfect. And to perform the movement, what we're going to do is we're going to slowly bend our elbows, allow our chest to go down to the floor. Just before touching the floor, we're going to push ourselves back up to the top. Perfect. And that's 1. Okay. So when performing the push-up, the safety cues to look out for is perfect. We don't want the elbows to lock. We want to keep the elbows nice and soft. That's it, excellent. Perfect. We want the body in a straight line, neck nice and neutral, slightly upwards. Perfect, you can just hold there for me. Neck slightly upwards. That's it, everything in a straight line. The back in a straight line, all the way down through the hips, through the legs, straight to the feet. What you want to do is keep your feet shoulder width apart, so it just helps you with your balance, and pull your core nice and tight. Keep your tummy nice and tight. Perfect. Everything nice and straight. Awesome. Give me one more. That's it, down and up. Perfect. Now when spotting your client, in order to make sure that they are safe, ensure that their body is in a straight line. They are not locking out the hip, they are not locking out the elbows, and make sure that they're keeping that core nice and tight. Yeah, just hold it for me. That core nice and tight. Everything in a nice straight line. And if you'd like to assist them, you can just help them by the hips. Make sure that those hips don't dip. Just dip them for me. Just like put them down. You don't want them like that. You just want to keep them up in that nice straight line position. You can adapt the push-up in various ways. In order to make it easier, you could place your feet wider apart, or do the push-up on your knees, or incline your hands where you lift your hands a little bit higher than your feet. To make it more difficult, you could place your legs narrower together, do a push-up on a decline where you lift up your feet, or you can position your hands closer together, almost in a diamond shape, or you could be brave and try it on one hand. Moving on to our next exercise, the squat. The agonist muscles being used in the squat are your gluteus maximus, the muscles of the quadriceps, which are your rectus femoris, your vastus medialis, your vastus lateralis, as well as your vastus intermediaris. The antagonist muscles being used in the squat are your hip flexors, which are made up of the psoas major and the iliacus, as well as your hamstrings, which is the semitendinosus, semimembranosus, and the bicep femoris. The joints being used when performing the squat are your hips, which is the ball and socket joint. These extend on the way up and flex on the way down. Your knee, which is the hinge joint. This flexes on the downward phase of the movement and extends on the upward phase of the movement. As well as your ankle, which is also known as a hinge joint, Dorsiflexion occurs when going down, doing the downward phase of the squat, and plantar flexion occurs when doing the upward phase of the squat. Now I'll demonstrate how to perform the squat. Thank you. Okay. So in order to perform the squat, we're going to have to set up. In order to set up, we are going to place our feet shoulder width apart, toes slightly pointed out. We're going to have a nice central balance over the top of our feet. We're going to try and place the weight in our heels. In order to perform the movement, what we're going to do is we are going to try and push our hips back, and then almost as if we're sitting on the chair, and bend our knees slightly, all the way down until 90%. We're going to use our arms for balance. We can place them out in front of us. Okay, you ready to perform one movement?
Yep.
Okay, so try not to make your legs go, your quadriceps go below the parallel, below the knee. Just try go to a nice 90 degrees and back up to the top. Okay, yeah, we'll do one move together and then I'll tell you the safety cues. Here we go. Okay, and one. Another one. Two. Perfect. Okay, do you mind if you come to the center for me? That's it, perfect. So when doing the squat, things we're going to look out for is try to keep the chin nice and up. Keep your head forward. You're going to have a nice central location in the spine. The knees, they're going to be moving slightly outwards, always pointed out over the toe. That's it, perfect. When coming up to the top, try not to lock the knees, try to keep them nice in a soft lock. That's it, excellent, perfect. Okay, the side view of the squat. Would you mind turning the side for me? That's it, perfect. As you can see, the chin is nice and tall, facing forward, big chest out, and you can see the spine is in constant alignment, nice and straight. Perfect. The knees as well, you can see she's not going below the parallel. That's it. Excellent. Perfect. Thank you. Will you face the front for me again? When doing the squat, in order to ensure that they perform the squat safely, you can spot them by assisting them under the rib cage. Can you perform one for me? That's right. Assist them under the rib cage. Another one. That's it. And then the other things you can look for is make sure that the spine is nice and straight in alignment and that they are not going below the parallel and that their knees are not wobbling too much, and make sure that they are nice and strong and static. To progress the bodyweight squat, you can add weight by doing it with barbells, kettlebells, or dumbbells. Or you can use a machine, such as a Smith machine. This allows you to add more weight and perform the movement more safely. You can vary the squat with different feet positions, which target different muscles and stabilizers. Or turn it into a plyometric movement by jumping, which increases explosiveness and power. Our next exercise is the single leg Romanian deadlift, commonly referred to as an RDL. The agonist muscles being used in RDL are the gluteus maximus, the hamstring muscles, which are made up of the semitendinosus, semimembranosus, as well as the bicep femoris. The antagonist muscles being used in the RDL are the rectus femoris, the vastus lateralis, the vastus medialis, and the vastus intermedius, which make up the quadriceps, as well as the gastrocnemius and soleus of the calf. The joints being used when performing the RDL are your hip girdle, which is the ball and socket joint. This flexes when hinging and lowering the weight, and extends when returning back to the starting position. The knee joint, which is a hinge joint. This flexes when hinging and descending, lowering of the weight, and extends when returning up to the starting position. The ankle, which is also a hinge joint. Plantar flexion occurs when hinging and lowering the weight, and dorsiflexion occurs when ascending back up to the starting position. Now I'll demonstrate how to perform a single leg RDL. In order to start and set up for the RDL, what we're going to do is pick your dominant foot, nice and strong into the floor. Make sure you're pushing your weight through the foot. What you want to do is have a slight flex in your knee. Not too much, just a slight flex, that's it. Perfect. Make your back foot just on your toe as light as possible. That's it. And then in order to perform the movement, what we're going to do is keep our shoulders nice and square, our hips nice and square. We're going to use our arms as balance. When we are on the way down, try not to extend further than the middle of your shin. And then when you are hinging at the hip, the hinge is making sure that you are bending from the hip down forward. Try keep the legs and the bum nice and still. Don't extend them backwards. Try keep them nice and still. Try push your chest as far as you can to the earth. And then as you are hinging at the hip, you're going to lift your back foot off the floor as you lower the weight down. That's it, and back up to the starting position. And then when you start again, you can just put your foot on the floor for balance, and we can restart it again. That's it, and back up to the top. Perfect. You want to stand in the middle here and just give me 1 or 2. Excellent. So some of the things you want to look for when performing the RDL to make sure they are doing it safely is ensure that the neck and the back is nice and straightly aligned. Make sure the neck is in a neutral position. Perfect. The knee, when performing the exercise, stays nice and straight and is in a soft lock, which meaning that it's not in a hard lock. Give it a slight bend. That's it. You don't want to put too much pressure on the knee and hyperextending. And ensure that when they are bending over, that they are hinging at the hip. There is no movement of the bum backwards. They are hinging nice and straight down. That's it. Excellent. Things to look out for is make sure that the shoulders are nice and square. That's it. Keep them nice and square to the ground. Excellent. And that the hips are nice and square to the ground. Perfect. Can we turn to the side so we can show them from the side?
Can I use the weight?
That's it. Perfect. Try doing it the other side so the leg is in the front. There we go. Perfect. Awesome. So what you're looking for is a nice soft lock in the knee. That's it. All the way just down to shin level. That's it. And back up to the top. Awesome. As you can see, the neck is nice and neutral. Excellent. Perfect. You want to keep a nice big chest. Nice and neutral, straight back. Awesome. Ensuring that those shoulders are nice and square and the hips stay nice and square. As you can see, everything will stay nice and straight. Awesome. To adapt the single leg RDL, you can increase the difficulty by adding more weight through a kettlebell or a dumbbell. If you don't have access to weights, you can even perform this with a band. To make it easier to assist you, you could hold onto a wall. There are also other variations, such as the kickstand RDL, the landmine RDL, as well as the stiff leg RDL. Moving on to our next exercise, the bent over row. The agonist muscles being used in the bent over row are your latissimus dorsi, the rhomboids, as well as the trapezius and posterior deltoid. The antagonist muscles being used in the bent over row are the anterior deltoids, the pec major, as well as the triceps. The joints being used in performing the bent over row are the scapula, which is a glenohumeral joint. They retract when pulling the weight towards the body and protract during the downward phase of the movement. Your shoulder, which is a ball and socket joint. This extends during the pulling phase and flexes during the lower phase. As well as your elbow, which is a hinge joint. This as well flexes during the pulling phase and extends during the lowering phase. I'll now demonstrate how to perform the movement with my clients. Okay, thank you. So what I'll do first is I will show her how to set up and perform 1 or 2 movements, and then I'll allow her to go after me. Okay, so in order to set up, what you're going to do is start with your feet shoulder width apart, weight nice and balanced. You're going to have a slight flex in your knee, a slight bend in your knee, and what you're going to do is hinge at the hips as if you're going to sit just a small 15-degree where you're nice and balanced. You're going to push your chest out and make sure that your back is nice and flat. Then we are going to pick the bar up with the overhang grip, meaning going over the top of the bar. We are going to allow the bar to hang below our abdomen, and in order to, you're going to keep our neck nice and neutral. And then to perform the movement, we are going to flex our elbows, try and keeping it as close to our body as possible, all the way up to the top. Try and squeeze the scapula together, and then back down to the bottom phase. That's it, all the way up to the top, and back down to the bottom. Okay, would you go for me? Okay, that side, that's it. Perfect. So as we said, the setup, we're going to keep it shoulder width apart. You're going to grab the bar, shoulder width apart as well. Overhang grip, that's it, over the top. Perfect. Then you're going to have a slight flex in your knee. That's it, 15-degree bend, hinge at the hips. And then you're going to flex the elbows, try and pull them up to the top. Keep them nicely tracking along the body and keep the neck nice and neutral. That's it, and back down. And up, and back down, good. Big chest, nice and forward, that's it. So we're looking for a nice straight line going in through the neck, through the shoulders, through the body, out through the hips. That's it, good. A nice slight flex in the knee. Perfect, and then we are making sure that the body, the elbows are going straight back through the line of the body. Okay, try and squeeze my hand. In order to make sure that they're performing it safely, they're going to try and squeeze your hand between their scapula. Perfect, and make sure that there's a complete natural arch in the back. Perfect. Okay, one more. And down. To adapt the bent over row, you can adjust the level of difficulty by either increasing or decreasing the weight of your kettlebell, dumbbell, or barbell. You can also perform this exercise by using a machine called the T-bar machine, which increases this ability and might allow you to lift a heavier weight. Alternatively, you could do this as a single arm dumbbell row using a bench for support, which allows you to isolate and place more focus on the muscle being worked. You can also change your grip to an overhand grip, an underhand grip, or a neutral grip, which will target different areas of the back. Our next exercise is the plank, which is an isometric movement. The agonist muscle being used in the plank is the rectus abdominis, the transverse abdominis, as well as the internal and external obliques. The antagonist muscles being used in the plank are the erector spinae. Since the plank is an isometric movement, the joints remain stationary throughout the exercise. The joints being used when performing the plank are the shoulder, which is a ball and socket joint, the elbow, which is a hinge joint, the hips, which is the ball and socket joint, and your ankle, which is a hinge joint. I will now demonstrate how to perform the movement. My client, come again. Thank you. Perfect. So what I'll do is I'll show you how to set up and we'll go from there. Okay, so in order to set up for the plank, what you're going to do is lie face down on the floor. Perfect. You're going to have your ankles at a 90 degrees. On your toes, you're going to place your elbows directly under your shoulders. Make a fist of your hands and make it straight out in front of you. Make sure that they're all in line with your shoulders. Perfect. And from there, you're going to prop your hips up so that everything forms a straight line. That's it. Cool. Make sure that you're pulling the hips, you're pulling the glutes and the core tight. And then you're going to hold in that position static, meaning no movement of the muscles. Okay? Yep. Perfect. Okay. Ensure that your client has no shoulder or wrist injuries before performing this movement because it does place a lot of stress on those joints. Okay, you ready? Okay, so let's get up for me. Perfect. So what we're looking for here is a nice straight neutral neck. We're looking for a straight line all the way through the shoulders, down the back of the hips, down the hips, all the way straight into the knees and the feet. What you can see here also is you want the core to be nice and tight. That's it, perfect. Hips, excellent. Making sure that those elbows are underneath the shoulders and that the hands are straight out. That's it. Nice, perfect, excellent. And just hold there. Perfect. See, so in order to help them once they are struggling, what you can do is just ensure that their hips will stay nice and straight in line and that the elbows are underneath the shoulders and that they'll make sure that they're bracing the core and the glutes. Perfect, and down. To make the plank easier, you can widen the distance between your feet, which gives you more stability. On the other hand, you can make it more difficult by bringing your feet closer together. You can also perform the plank on your elbows, with straight arms, or on your sides, which target more of your oblique muscles. Different variations of the plank can be adding shoulder taps, or doing a Superman plank, which is lifting alternate arms and legs simultaneously. Thanks guys, that's our 5 exercises for today. Hopefully you learned something that will help you improve your technique or be safer in the gym. We'll see you next time.